Service Alliance community. How y'all doing today? Alongside of me, we got Ginny.
Good morning.
Morning.
Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here. We got Dr. Dan here already. Morning, brother. How's it going?
Good morning.
One of these days, I'm just going to surprise everyone. I'm not going to put the intro in. I'm just going to sit there and prattle for 2 minutes.
Just dive in.
Yeah.
Just dive right in. Yeah.
I'm just going to crank the music because I can crank the music in the background as we're talking. I'm just going to dive right in. Just confuse them all. Morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Oh, man. Well, good topic today. It's be fun.
I'm excited. Positivity is my superpower.
So I am the antithesis of this. I kind of shared with you and now share with the audience, but this is a great topic. The leader really does set the tone for the team, for better or for worse. And so, Jenny, very, very positive. I, on the other hand, do you want a safety briefing? Because that's how you get a safety briefing. And so where I'm going with that is I am the reason you need this topic. Like, I am that leader that has had to work on this very hard. I'm the one who has to, kind of put the emotion in check, take the personal out of it. I'm the one that sends it the other direction.
So I wear all my emotions on my face. So I have to really internalize being positive, because if I'm not, you're going to know how I feel by looking at my face. So I think I've just developed this, I've actually been told I'm toxic positivity is a thing, but I don't know about that. We've talked about that in our book club before. Yeah.
Seems like a bunch of hooey to me. No, but toxic negativity is a very real thing and can kill a team. I mean, you can take the most positive people and turn them into negative people really fast. If you are the leader of the team and you are constantly negative, you will see that team just
absolutely.
Been there, done that. And it's hard. In hard times, it's hard. That's kind of where we sparked this from. When you're running around, hair on fire, everything is on fire. Like, literally, it is the epitome of a dumpster fire going on.
Yeah.
It is hardest to maintain positivity. But as a leader, whether you are the owner of the company, you are the service manager, you're the office manager, wherever you are, if you are a leader in that team, you're going to have to get those emotions in check, because guess what? You're the leader.
And there's lots of scripture about positivity and being positive, but we have just one little example today. So
share it and I'll pray it up.
Okay, awesome. So this is from Proverbs chapter 16, verse 24. Good words are a honeycomb, and their sweetness is a healing of the soul.
Good stuff. All right, we'll pray it in. Dear Father, thank you for this day and thank you for this time together. And Father, we pray that our words would help those in the audience, that they would be able to control their tongue, control their emotions, and guide their teams well, that they would lead well in whatever position they hold, whether it's owner, technician, manager, CSR. Father, we just pray that those in our audience would influence the world around them to help to elevate the industry. We thank you and we praise you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So let's start on let's start with the upbeat. So there's some things that you can do
for sure
to guide this the right way and not the wrong way.
Yes. So I was telling Zach before we popped on here, I mean, there's a lot of things that may come naturally to a lot of people in leadership positions, but I lately have been really using ChatGPT to organize my thoughts. So I literally put in there, and this is not a bad idea if you are struggling with something, as a leader and you want to know how to stay positive or something, or how to get through something, this is the prompt I put in there this morning. List and give a very brief summary of 10 ways a leader can stay positive for their team during hard times. So I didn't need help doing these things, but sometimes actually thinking of a list, like an easy list. So don't forget that ChatGPT is there as a tool for you. And it doesn't have to be to write a blog post. It can be to brainstorm something or think of how to handle a problem. But the interesting thing, the very first thing on the list is communication. And there's a lot of times, especially in hard times, and people know when they're in hard times, right? Like, you know, when the phone's not ringing in your company, the technicians know when their call volume is down. So there's a feeling there that goes with not having work and being really worried about when this is going to turn. And one of the things, you know, Joe's been doing this for almost 35 years. We know as appliance people that there are seasons in the appliance industry where call volume drops off. And you need to remember that it's going to pick back up, and you got to plan for these things. But as leaders, we can communicate. This is, you know, we know that historically this has been the trend. We know that call volume is going to pick up in May or whenever it is for your area. So even, I know with Gasper, it was interesting. He's in Florida. They have a different season that's their slow season than somebody in the middle Atlantic region or something. So depending on where you are in the country, your season of your slow time might be different. But as a leader, you're going to encourage your team that this is not going to last forever. This is a time when we can prepare, we can organize our parts, we can do all the things to get ready for when the phone starts ringing. So just that open communication, even if people have been through slow seasons 10 times, they still get nervous because they're human and they have to feed their families and whatever. So that communication and the constant communication, like, we're going to get through this. This is not new. This is something we've seen before. And interestingly, COVID in this industry bolstered call volume and made it almost so there was no slow season ever. So I think coming out of this period of COVID, when everybody was fixing everything and not buying anything new, it's weird now. This is probably the first slow season people have experienced in 3 years. So they're forgetting that it's okay and it's going to come back around.
The flooring and remodeling industry was no different. You know, I guess these guys have just, like, this is, we're pre-COVID levels of business, and now you actually have to work hard, and we're back into the weird slow seasons. Like, you know, at the floor store, Matt and I, we've been doing each 3 to 4 estimates a day. Like, we've been working 15-hour days, just doing a ridiculous amount of estimates, running. I was in the office all day yesterday. We didn't have a phone call. We didn't have anyone walk through the door, and it's Easter week. So, like, it's dead. Everyone's on spring break. No one's doing anything. Where in the COVID time, everyone's like, no, I got to get my floor done, or I got to get my appliance repaired, or I got to get my HVAC unit, you know, like.
Well, they were all home. Everybody was home, looking around at all the things they needed to fix and do in their home. So it was a weird time.
So, and I mean, so like I say, that reigns true in any industry, and the communication is the biggest thing. As a leader, if you do nothing else, hone your communication skills. Learn how to communicate and communicate effectively, and communication is a two-way street. So it's not just talking at people. Like, that's one side of communication. It's also being able to listen. You should be listening more than talking. And so if you're not great at communication, this is something that I've had to work extremely, and still have to work extremely hard on. Improve your communication skills, because that is the foundation for anything else you do as a leader.
Yeah. And I think as a leader, hopefully, if you've been in the industry for a while, you've been preparing for the rainy day season, you know, when there's not a lot of calls. And that's something to communicate to your team. Guys, I knew this was coming. This is not something that was a surprise to me. I've planned. We're not going under. You're still going to have a job, you know, those kind of things. But the funny thing is about communication, we all know this, but your words are a very small amount of your communication. Your body language is very important. So when you have to deliver bad news or it's a hard time and you have to talk about something, this sounds really funny, but it's super effective. You close your door. Everybody has feelings, right? You might feel really terrible. You cannot go out and address your team when you feel really terrible, because it's going to come out in what you're saying, no matter how hard you try. So you need to wait and not talk when you're in your feelings and you're really upset. And then when you do want to address your team, one thing you can do is, before you go out there, you're going to smile. Like, and when you're on the phone and you smile, your voice comes across completely differently. So you're not going to come out and give a smile and deliver bad news to your team, because that would be weird. But you can prepare yourself physically in your office or before you go out. Smile, take a deep breath. You can put your hands on your hips and stand really tall, like they call that the Superman pose. So like literally take a deep breath and do a Superman pose for like 2 minutes. Collect yourself and then go out. So you're speaking confidently and not like you're not going out there like sagging and feeling really horrible. So those little techniques actually really help. There's TED Talks on those kind of techniques if you're interested, but they really work. They sound hokey, but they really work. So preparing yourself, telling yourself that it's going to be okay. It's almost like fake it till you make it, but
you mean you shouldn't go out with RBF or RBV?
Yeah, not a good idea.
That's like my operating status is RBF and RBV.
But you're not going to be like ridiculously like, hey guys, I'm really happy to tell you that we don't have any calls today.
Right.
Like that's insulting. So you don't want to be insulting, but you also don't want to go out there like making it feel worse than it needs to be.
Right. So the owner of the floor store, Matt, teases me all the time. He's like, leave your feelings at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it is a funny statement, but I am a more passionate one where he's like, nothing phases. Like you can't tell if he's mad, if he's happy. Like he's like Eeyore. He's a lot like Eeyore. Mm-hmm. He's just like all the time. And I'm the other one. Like, did you really just attack our team? Or yeah, we kick butt. Like like I can go either way. So he tells me all the time, leave your feelings at home. But
I don't know if Eeyore is a great person to hang out with.
Yeah, I mean, he's a really good guy. He just like his state is like this all the time. There's no like one way or the other. He's just always like
that is like, I think that's a good personality trait, to be pretty even.
Oh, it's super frustrating.
But Eeyore to me is always in the low. Like he's very even, but he's always looking at the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then focusing on the positive. So if it is something that like a really hard time, like what are things that are going right in your team? What can you work on to build your skills in the downtime? Like you could be doing a technical class. You could be organizing parts. Like I said, like there's definitely things that you can do to feel empowered for when good times come. But motivating people through something that's really hard, it's our job as leaders. In my daytime job, I have to motivate people to do really boring things sometimes, like regulatory things, like the government tells us we have to do things in healthcare and check all these boxes. And sometimes we have to do big inspections and self-inspections, and it's boring. And it sometimes feels like another thing to do in the middle of all the other things you're trying to do, but we still have to do all those things. And so every industry has those things that we have to do. And so
I don't think anything's worse than JACO commissioning though.
JACO
is the worst thing. And as a technician, just a little weird story. I delivered medical supplies for almost 11 years. And having a JACO commissioner sitting next to you while you're going out and going into people's homes and delivering medical supplies is like the most unnerving thing in the world. Because you want to talk about people that are like robots. They are like robots when they come to do
Mhm.
inspections like that. It is wild.
Yeah, it's hardcore. So in my previous job, I was up in working particularly in the blood bank, like transfusion department for the hospital. And that area is regulated by the FDA, the AABB, which is specific to blood banking, and the CAP, which is the laboratory regulatory place. So it's like triple regulated, and they have to do like all these super strict things because literally you could kill somebody if you give them the wrong blood type, or something goes wrong when you're transfusing somebody. So it's boring. Like a lot of that stuff is really boring. So keeping people motivated and celebrating things along the way, like once you're through the inspection time, or once you've completed all your parts inventory, or whatever the really rote thing that you're doing is, celebrate. So that's another way to keep things positive, even in times that are not any fun. You can celebrate the small wins and talk about what's going right and how your team's really awesome and you're all working together, and you can have like a pizza party or something. Like, do something that's fun to make it not so bad.
Yeah, we're in the middle of like redoing the entire showroom. We're in the middle of basically rebuilding the company ground up. That's why you brought me in. It's been a rough year, and so like a lot of changes, a lot of pieces are happening at the flooring store. And so this speaks to what you're saying. Like, we have plans and we have communicated to the team at the end of this season. Like, we are pushing through this season when all this is done and the showroom is now revamped and ready to go, and all these new things are in place, which is happening rapidly. Here we go. Now we're going to have a party inside of here, and then we're going to have like an open house kind of party, right? Like, bring the community in. Hey, here's the relaunch of the store. Here's the relaunch of. It doesn't have to be that extreme with you, but yeah, have a pizza party. Take everyone out to dinner. Go paintball, whatever it is. Like, do something to celebrate as a team, and do something to just really live in that moment and focus on that moment of the win. Right.
Yeah, there's other things we can focus on when you're getting out of work a little earlier than usual. That's a really great time to pick your kid up from school, or, like be the one to be there, go out, hit some more family activities. There's definite things to celebrate. And that kind of falls under the category of self-care, which was definitely on the list. Encouraging your team when things are tough. And slow periods aren't just the only tough period. Like your team could go through the loss of a team member, like to a medical issue or something like that, or a death, or somebody that you're close to in your team could be going through a divorce or an ill child. I mean, there's other things that could go wrong other than just slow season, in your business and in your team. So allowing time for self-care and really supporting people when they're going through stuff and rallying behind them is another way to be positive and show support, even in a really hard time.
Yeah. When you're at your best, whether it's exercise, nutrition, whatever self-care looks like to you. And I, speaking for myself, when I'm eating right, when I'm exercising right, I am at my best. I can be the best for the team. And so that is important. If you're not practicing some type of self-care as a leader, you need to stop right now, figure out what that means, and start doing that, right? So communication is first, and I would say self-care is second. Like, those are two foundational items for leading a team well. And I'm not saying you got to go out and be freaking, like some bodybuilder, right? Exercising, just like taking a walk or, something. You have to do something to get your body moving, to get yourself taking care of yourself so that you can take, I've shared it on the show before. Like, when you're on an airplane and they say, like, when the oxygen mask drops, like, put your mask on first. You cannot help anyone else until you help yourself. That reigns true in everything. If you are leading a team and you are not taking care of yourself, guess what? You cannot help the rest of the team until you start helping yourself. You got to figure that out, guys.
For sure. And also, when you know that somebody is struggling, it might not be the whole team, but somebody, you can give them, you can let them go home early that day, and not in a punitive way, but like, it seems like you're having a hard week. Do you want to just go get your nails done if it's a woman? Or do you want to just, or maybe a man, some men like manicures, but like maybe you just want to leave work early and like just not be there because you're just not in the right headspace or whatever. And the best boss I ever had was just one of those people that said, you know what, you've been really busting your butt and working really hard. Why don't you just leave early today and go spend time with your family or whatever? And it just, it was a recognition of hard work. So like you feel like somebody noticed that you contributed and you have been working really hard. And then also it was, I know your family's important to you. Go ahead and do what you really love doing, and you don't need to be here today. And we've got in the healthcare industry, it's been crazy for COVID times, but there's also like people deal with things like cyber attacks and computer downtimes and medical emergencies. Like think about some of these train derailments that we've had in different areas. So that means that area is impacted by that. So it could be the healthcare. It could be like nobody can get where they need to go because the road is blocked. There's traffic accidents. So there's all kinds of things that go wrong and make it difficult for people. Good morning, Saul. So in those cases, when it's been a stressful week or whatever's been going on or a stressful day, like there's no harm in giving people some grace and just understanding that they had a hard time and recognizing that and letting them leave early or take an extra day off or not maybe present that thing that they were supposed to present that day. There's a lot of things. Good morning, Joe. I think it's about noticing, feeling noticed by somebody, especially your boss, means a lot. So taking notice of your team and letting them know that you see them, you see what they're going through, you appreciate the things they're doing, and then whatever their love language is at work, maybe they don't want to be recognized. Some people don't want recognition. Maybe they just want you to say privately to them that you appreciate them. Maybe they do want time off. Maybe they want more responsibility. You got to know what they want and speak their work love language.
Not everyone wants more money either. Some
Correct.
do.
Yeah, money's one of the lowest motivators, actually. But in this industry, it depends on the industry. But throwing money at somebody sometimes can be insulting, depending on who they are.
Yeah, it all depends. That's why I say you gotta learn. Like a lot of people's thought is, I'm just gonna throw more money at the problem, but that's not always the case. Some people it is. Some people it's like, yeah, I need like $2 more an hour, and it's a game changer for them. But some people that's just like that's not what I care about. Money isn't like the main thing. I want more family time or whatever. So, you gotta figure out what that is. And then, if you're walking around in a funk all the time, if you're walking around and this is so I have to get on Matt all the time. He does go to the worst case scenario. That's why I call him Eeyore. Is like if you're walking around like that, it's much harder for me to be in a positive mode all the time. So you better get, your head out of your butt and like start being a little bit positive about it, because there is a lot of good things. You need to start celebrating those wins, because if you go to the negative, and I am speaking from experience. So if you are out there and you are leading a team and your head is in the sand, like you're just like in that dumpster fire, get your head out of your butt. Start finding one thing every day to celebrate a win, right? Because if you don't start demonstrating at least a little bit of positivity to your team, you will kill your team. Mm-hmm. You will kill your team.
Absolutely. But the funny thing is about looking at the worst case scenario, sometimes that actually helps me, because the worst case scenario, sometimes if you think about what it is and then how you would actually solve it, you realize it really isn't that bad. And you've been worrying about this like horrible thing that could happen, but it's not really that bad. You
can't live there though. You cannot live there. You have to
go there, you solve it, and then you're like, okay, if that happened, this is what I would do. And then it doesn't really seem that bad anymore. So if that's a way to handle it, if you have a toxic team member that's always negative, is okay, let's think about that. Like, what if that happened? What would we do? And then you explain like that you already have thought of this and you already have a plan in place. And then that fear, they don't have to sit there and worry about it. So that's part of the communication as a leader too. Like people, they want to know the truth. They don't want you to, like, what we create in our mind is so much worse sometimes than what the reality really is.
If you live there though, it becomes reality.
Absolutely. Yes. You can definitely dwell on it for sure. But an example, there's a group of women that I meet with once a month. And one of the women had a child with a medical issue that had to go have a procedure. And in their minds, they really thought it was going to be so much worse. And once they got through it, the experience was very much a life-changing thing that, oh, I got through this thing that I thought was going to be so terrible. And now I can conquer anything because I've done this. So that's a really, we talk about in the book we're doing right now in our morning book club, Win the Day. The mantra is flip the script all the time throughout that book. So when you're dealing with something that's hard or negative or whatever, there's always an opportunity to flip the script. So yes, this sucks. We're going through a really hard time as a company, as a team, as a person, whatever, our relationship, whatever the hard time is. But we're going to get through this. We're going to be stronger for it. And next time this happens, we're going to be prepared. We're going to learn, and we're all doing this as a team. So like that team, that cohesiveness, you get so much stronger through adversity if you keep it positive and you work through it instead of living in the negative, like you said.
And we've talked about this before. Even if you are in the middle management side of things, right? So maybe you're just I hate saying that, but maybe you are the service manager. Maybe you are the office manager. You're not the owner of the company, or you're not the CEO, whatever. Like, you can lead up. Part of your responsibility is to lead up. What is leading up? Well, you're leading yourself, and you're leading those that are actually supposed to be leading you. And you're doing that by doing the right thing all the time, right? Like you're making those positive choices. You are being the positive influence in the company. So as you're leading up, those that are leading, those that are behind you, are seeing you lead up. They are seeing you lead across not just them, but also to those that are above you. They see you as a true all-around leader. And so it is your responsibility, no matter your position in any company, to lead well, right? You can do that as a service technician. You can do that as a CSR. You may not have a manager title, right? How you lead yourself, you can then lead the rest of the team in that same manner. This principle applies to everyone. It is not unique
100%.
to just the owners, just the managers. It is across the board. How you lead yourself is how you lead others. It's important.
And I guess I want to address, like I have heard that term toxic positivity, like we were talking about earlier. And to me, that means you're not recognizing that there's anything bad at all. You're just like, I'm just going to be positive. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to ever experience a negative feeling. That's not true. And that's not what I'm saying here. So when you feel sad or crappy or lost or insecure or whatever you're feeling, like it's okay to feel those feelings, but you can't feel those feelings and be morose about it and tell your whole team that that's what's going to happen. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. It's terrible. What you're going to say is you're going to feel those feelings. Maybe talk to somebody really close to you, like your spouse or another leader at your same level or something like that. Get all those feelings out. And then when you're leading your team, you're going to be, so you have solved it and you're going to be positive about it. So you're not going to talk about all of these things with a team that you're leading until you've gone through your feelings And then it's important to realize when you deliver news that's upsetting to people, it's the first time they've heard it. So they're going to feel all those feelings that you already worked through, and you need to give them a chance to feel them and then be understanding and guide them to a place of positivity, that there's a solution, that you're going to move forward and things like that. So toxic positivity, it's I hate the word trigger, but it irks me to hear that, because it doesn't mean that like you have no respect or care for negative or hurtful feelings. It just means you're not going to sit there and live in that. Like you were saying, Zach, like you're going to move forward to a different place.
And it can go, I mean, it can really go both ways. The biggest thing is that you need to, and we kind of shared this in the authenticity last week when we were talking about that, like own it, own what you're going through, like own, hey, this is what's going on. This is how I'm feeling, good or bad, doesn't matter, good or bad. And here's what we're going to do about it. Like develop a plan, begin to be that, even keel steady, but even keel steady in a manner that has a plan, has a set of steps, a logical progression that you're going to follow through, and carry to completion. And so, yeah, if you're faking positivity, if you're living in negativity, like both are just as bad as the other. It's okay to go, you know what? I am choosing to be positive about this, but own the feelings,
right.
Own, hey, this is what's going on. It sucks. It really does. Here's what we're going to do about it, right? Like if you're developing a plan and you're beginning to move forward, that is going to have a lot more weight, and a lot more respect than just, I've worked for people that were fake positive, right? Like they were just like, oh yeah, everything's fine. Meanwhile the company's burning down. And you can't
right.
do that.
Honesty
either.
is huge.
Yeah. So
sure.
Heavy topic, but well worth it. Just a reminder, if you guys are out there and you are Mr. Negative or Miss Negative in the company, you want a safety briefing, because that's how you get a safety briefing. Don't be that guy or gal. Be someone who is willing to develop a plan, to own the emotions of it, develop a plan, and move forward.
So, Dean Graziosi, you've heard of him before. One of his mantras is solve bigger problems. So like if you're the person that he uses the example of, you go out to a restaurant and your steak wasn't cooked the way it was supposed to be cooked. And you have two choices. You can be like, dang it, I asked for this to be medium rare and it's medium well. And you can be like grumpy and send it back. And you would be within your rights to do that because you ordered it cooked that way or whatever. Or you can just be like grateful that you have an opportunity to have a steak, because a lot of people don't have that opportunity to have a steak. And when that is the biggest problem in your life, is that your steak didn't come out the right way and you're going to blow it out of proportion and act like that, then you're never going to solve anything bigger than that in your life. And so his whole thing is like, let's not focus on all the little minutia that's negative. Let's just move on from that and solve bigger problems. Because when you solve bigger problems and you remain positive when all the little tiny things that are going wrong in your life, and you can focus on other things, like how much better is your life going to be? Because you chose to just enjoy the steak, even if it wasn't perfect, and move on. Because then not only do you live in that moment of disappointment that your steak didn't come out right, but you make the chef feel bad. You make the waiter feel bad. Like everybody experiences this like negative emotion that you have about something that really isn't that big of a deal. And it's really like life-changing to think like that. If you just think about, is it really that important? Some things are important. Like there's really heavy things that people go through, but 90% of the time, it's not really that important. And you have a choice to be positive or negative in every single situation. And so if you choose, like you said earlier, if you choose to be positive every time that you possibly can, you set a tone of positivity for your whole entire life. And then you can't help but react in a forward moving way instead of like looking backward and living in those kind of moments. So that's kind of my like final thought for the morning. Just choose. You have that power to choose how you react in every single situation.
Awesome. Well, Service Alliance community, hopefully we have helped you figure out some ways to lead well and leave your emotions kind of in the dust and just be that stable person that your team needs. Get out there, serve your community as well, and we'll see you next time on the Morning Grind. Have a good day, guys.